There's Masters. Great chance here. That does it. Steve Wignall. And for the first time, Colchester United have won a major final.
Still Garcia, finally the company arrives and it's in! It's a freak-out goal from Ricardo Carvalho. Richard Garcia wants the credit and the shock is on at the bridge.
And it's promotion for Colchester United. They've made it into the Championship for the first time in 69 years.
Porter, being held, there is Porter, and that's Walker!
Welcome to Beyond the Barside Meets, and I am joined by another ex-U's legend, Mr. Paul Buckle. How are you doing, mate?
Good morning, Aaron. Should I say good afternoon in England? Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks.
Yeah. So, we'll start with that. So you're out in the States, aren't you? You're doing you're doing quite a bit out there. Coaching, consulting. You're doing all sorts.
Yeah. That funny old word, consulting. In football, Aaron. So yeah, we moved about 13 years ago with Rebecca's job. My wife's the host of NBC and the Premier League and the Olympic Games. And yeah, we've been here ever since. So I managed out here for 3 years with Sacramento Republic, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then my father-in-law said to me, you need to be a consultant, afterwards. So with the growth of the game in this country, in all areas, Aaron, that's what I've done. I've been doing that for probably the last 6-7 years, and that's involved going back on the sidelines. That's involved assisting, mentoring. I work with the LMA a lot with a lot of the members that want to come to the States, that need to be educated on it. Yeah, so I work for a few owners as well. So yeah, it's been a big change in my life from those days and some of the days we're going to speak about shortly. But we thoroughly enjoy it living in Northern California. Thanks,
I can imagine, mate. Yeah, and obviously with the rise of owners from the United States coming into the Football League, I'd imagine you're certainly someone to go to and talk to in regards to that. But we'll talk about Colchester United. You joined us in '96. Prior to that, you came through at Brentford.
I started my career at Brentford as an apprentice, and then went on to make nearly 100 appearances for the club, and then down to Torquay, Exeter, and then I was having a really good season, and I picked up an injury, and I decided to turn a contract down at Exeter, probably a bit on reflection, foolishly, because I wasn't fit, and I had 3 or 4 clubs that had shown a real interest in me, so I didn't think it was going to be a problem. And in the end, it was a difficult period for me, that. And in the end, I was at Wycombe when Colchester actually made a firm offer, because she was selling Mark Kinsella at the time. And I'm thinking, well, they're big shoes to fill with what Mark did for the club. And I took the offer. I came in, like you say, 96, 97, and sort of hit the ground running, and had a great time.
Yeah, you certainly did hit the ground running. So over 100 appearances. Was it Steve Wignall that brought you in as manager?
Yes, Steve Wignall, and Steve Whitton was his assistant.
Yeah, and you enjoyed promotion via the playoffs, which we will get into. But what were your first impressions of the club like when you arrived?
Well, certainly from looking at the team winning, I think they won 7-1 against Lincoln. And I thought, how the hell am I going to get in this team? But Steve Wignall obviously had a place in mind for me in the team. And it was a very, very good footballing team. It was the first thing I loved about the team and the squad, is it was all based around keeping the ball. It was based around good football, really good football, which obviously we see now a lot, possession-based football, but it really was. And I think, Steve and Steve Whitton were ahead of their time in that. We played from the back. There was a toughness about the team as well, which in the end, if you get promoted as a team, you do need all of those things, as I know as a manager as well. You need that in a team. And when I look back, when you called me and said, would I come on? Started to think back about those players and those characters. And I can tell you something, I'd have had all those players in my teams, because we really did have a great chemistry on and off the field. Steve Wignall was a really good manager. He was a very good tactician, along with Steve Witten. Witten really pushed us to play. He would get frustrated if the ball went long. We had strong leaders like Wilkins and Green, who'd come in from Luton. We had a fantastic goalie in Embo, Carl Emberson. And I loved my time there with the chaps.
Yeah,
and obviously
definitely.
winning like we did, and being there for 2.5 seasons. It was a fantastic time.
I can imagine. And it's interesting that you mentioned Steve Witten as well, about how he wanted you guys to play football and get the ball down, because that was certainly something that he tried to implement when he eventually got the managerial role himself. So it sort of makes sense that he was a part of that with Wignall as his assistant. Obviously, the successes of the club were quite substantial. You won the playoffs quite emphatically. What was it like? Walking out at Wembley must be a dream for every player. I mean, you've done it on a couple of occasions, both as a player and a manager. So what was that moment like, sort of playing in the playoff finals at Wembley?
Well, just prior to that, we'd been beaten the season before in the auto windscreen final in front of 50,000, which I was suspended for, which I got a 1-game suspension, Aaron, and it killed me, as you can imagine. I'd scored goals in that competition. I say I got 3 goals leading into the final, and I picked up a yellow card away at Hereford, and it cost me. It cost me. I had to wait a week. I think his name was Rob Stiles, the referee. He's 100% on my Christmas card list, because back then it was they saw, like, it was a challenge on the halfway line, and it wasn't a bad challenge. And he said to me, "Oh, accidental." So when I knew that I was close, I was going to be closing in, because the final was two weeks later, I think, or the ban would start. I actually got his phone number on the way back, and I rung him from South Mims, and I said to him, "Look, if I get 4 points," because it was 2, 3 or 4 points you would get based on what the referee would say in his report, and then someone would just tick it off, in London. And he said, I could tell, like, he didn't want me ringing him. And I said, "Look, if you said it was accidental, if you could put that in, because if I get 4 points, I miss the final." And he said, "Yeah, I'll see what I can do." And the following Friday, I got the letter, opened it. It said in the 43rd minute, Buckle was late and reckless, 4 points. And I thought, you know what? That says it all for me. It's about referees, So I missed it. I missed the final, nearly 50,000, as we know, and we lost on penalties. I was sure I would have played a part, in that, after the run I'd had with the goals. Me and Tony McCarthy were doomed. We both missed the final. We travelled in, and then, it's one occasion to miss. And then I suppose the next year was even more determined. After the first leg, I think we lost the first leg 1-0 at Underhill. I remember the Barnet players coming in, sort of celebrating, and that got to us as a group. They thought it was over, and I think Branston got sent off, who I later signed as a player when I was manager at Torquay. Branston got sent off with Devine, and no disrespect to Guy, but he did a good job for us there, getting Devine off the pitch, because he was a real threat. And then we got them back to Layer Road, and I think it was 3-1 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate. And then I literally wrapped myself up in cotton wool, because I wanted not only to win promotion, but to play at Wembley, I think, which is every player's dream. So, then we scored after 20 minutes at Wembley with Dave with the penalty, and we was never going to lose. And I don't say that being big-headed, but there was such a determination in that team. like a real determination. It didn't matter how we played. I mean, it's not one that I'll look back on and see loads of highlights, certainly myself, but stopping the likes of Rodney Jack, stopping their better players, because they were a really good team, Torquay. They just missed out, on automatic. Of course, they had Gibbo in the team, who we knew well. So yeah, we done a job on them, a proper job, and got promoted, I think, for the first time in 17 years to the League One. So, and we had a really good night after, Aaron, I can tell you.
I can imagine.
That was some party, and then the trip away after for a week, wherever we went, Tenerife or wherever back in the day. Yeah, amazing memories.
I can imagine. I mean, did it feel, obviously it's amazing that you got to play at Wembley after being suspended the year before and winning and getting promotion. Did it feel a little bit strange with the opponents being Torquay?
A little bit at the start, but I soon got rid of that. I mean, I won a lot of things as a player, but I was determined. Anything that I didn't have in skill, I made up in determination, and I could really feel it within the team and the leadership of Wignall and Witten. It was literally in the tunnel. There was some trouble in the tunnel before when we were going out. It was that type of night. It was a Friday night because England were playing on the Saturday, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the only downside is there was only about 20,000 at Wembley for the final. So there'd have been a lot more if it had been on the Saturday. But there was just this determination, and I didn't, I hope Torquay fans are not watching this, but I didn't care about them. All I cared about was Colchester United. I was a regular in the team. I felt a responsibility to go in there and do the job. We had a solid, I think we played a 5 that night. And yeah, I think all the players that night, really played their part. There was no one underneath a 7 or an 8, which you need in a final. It's not about performance, it's just about winning. And I know that from losing 3 out of 4 as a manager in a final. It's the worst feeling in the world. So it was a brilliant feeling. The buzz of winning at Wembley is something that will stay with you forever. And when it's a promotion, yeah, it's really special because you need an awful lot from your teammates and from the management staff to actually gain a promotion. A lot of players go through their career without feeling that. So yeah, then it was obviously on to trying to hold our own in League One.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was 2 years of, like, I came in and it was 2 years of real success, because that run in the auto windscreen, when you first enter that competition, you sort of, you can't see Wembley.
Mm-hmm.
But as that got bigger and bigger, and we knocked out the likes of Millwall, it was special when I scored a golden goal against Millwall. We'd planned on, I think, Paul Abrams and Greeny and all the lads were like, right, if whoever scores the golden goal, if we get it, we'll all run off the pitch and go to the local pub. Well, that wouldn't be a good idea in Millwall, would it? But we sort of I should have been taking the corner actually that night. I should have been, and I was so exhausted, I stayed on the edge, and it come out to me, and I had a one touch and volleyed it in the top corner. So that was the end of that. And then I think I scored at Northampton at home, and then I got the equaliser against Peterborough in the semi-final before, I think it was Abe's went and smashed the winner in. So it was success. And then the next year, trying to get promoted, I think we were knocked out of the Cups early, which can help. But I think Wiggy said, like, in that first year I was there, give me a chance, I'll get this club promoted. And he certainly did.
Yeah, and obviously we move into the league above afterwards, and Steve unfortunately loses his job. How did you feel as a squad, sort of seeing him go, sort of at that point in the season?
Well, we were surprised, really. It come as a shock, because I think we could have stayed up, which obviously we did. We did stay up, and I think we could have done that with Steve. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I think I've spoke to Steve a couple of times since then. But it was sad. We were sad because we really liked him a lot. He was fair. Kicked off a few times in the dressing room. There's a few
Yeah.
fights. Yeah, oh yeah, I remember one. I think it might have been Dave Gregory. I'm not sorry, Dave, if I'm letting you down here, mate, but it was a great fight. And it was back in the day where Steve Wignall I think he had football boots on. You know, managers now don't. He had boots on, Wig. He was all coming at half time, which wasn't. It used to happen a lot. We're coming at half time and everyone was arguing because we probably 1-0 down. And a fight broke out. And I remember Steve, it was haymakers going, grabbing, and he fell over. He fell over on the floor. Shouldn't laugh, should you? But yeah, he fell over on the floor, and we had a laugh about that. But the passion in the team was massive. He created an environment along with Wits, and I mention Wits a lot because he was so dedicated, Steve. He'd come from big likes of West Ham and Ipswich. I think was it Ipswich, a top level player coming in to play with us in League Two. He set a real standard in the training, and the training used to get really fiery. So we had a real winning mentality that was created at the club, and we missed it when he went. It happened so fast, and then I think we all wanted Wits to get the job.
Yeah,
I think we went to Bristol Rovers away, and I remember that feeling of again. We wanted him to have it. We wanted that continuity. I think we drew 0-0 or something. It might have been Bristol Rovers, but he didn't get it. And then of course Mick came in, Mick Wadsworth, completely different. Guy from the north. We didn't know much about him. We knew that he'd worked with England. He'd worked with some top players, which he told me once in the office when I got in trouble with him after scoring, I think against Notts County. I did something wrong after with my celebration, and it was a new test for us. And he did make changes. He made a lot of changes. He brought Gerard Williams in. I think Gerard was in first, and then I was fighting for my place with him, and he left me out. Which I wasn't happy about that, and he ruffled the feathers, I think, of a few of us. But yeah, we got on with it. We played some really good football in the end. I got my place back in the team. I got a couple of important goals for him, and for us, more importantly. But things changed a little bit then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it was his intention to ruffle feathers? Do you think he sort of went in wanting to do that to sort of spark a reaction from a few people?
Yeah, probably. Looking back on it, because we felt it. We certainly felt it, and we had some good, strong characters in there. But he started to manoeuvre, and he brought Warren Aspinall in, and Warren was his man. Warren, he was in our car school, Warren. So we had a strong car school, which was me, Embo, David Green, Adam Locke, who I need to mention, because what a top player Lockie was. He was so unlucky not to play more games. I think Skelts might have been in it as well. So Aaron was in it when he joined us from Luton, and then Warren. But Warren gave us an insight into Mick. What Mick was about, because he'd come across quite dour, Mick. It was different, but he won. I learned in the end when I left Colchester, he was very fair with me, but he did. He gave me he gave me a royal bollocking in the office. If you want to know about that one, Aaron.
Yes, please, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, he was manoeuvring as a manager. We was all on edge. And he was leaving people out on, getting rid of people, right? And I didn't want, it was sort of like who's next type thing. So we're playing away at Millwall in the league. Really good football. I mean, he definitely wanted us to play out from the back, and he changed to a 5 and different stuff, and everything went through the midfield. And I remember we had a really brilliant move. Must have been about 25 passes. It come to me. And I shot, and particularly one of my best strikes on goal. And at half time, he went so over the top about it with me. I hadn't had a bollocking like that from Wiggy or, in my career, really. And I was shocked. And I thought, first thing I thought was, I'm next. He's lining me up. So I forget what happened. We finished the game. And then, of course, in the car school. So back in the day, the car school was brutal in there because we would all get into each other, wind each other up. And all the lads come for me, Oh, didn't say too much, Bucks, did you, when he was rifling off at you, you're a bit quiet. I'm not going to swear on here, but, bit quiet when you're sitting there, tail between your legs type thing. And got right under my skin, that did. So I'm now thinking, am I going to play on the Friday at home to Notts County? I thought I was going to be dropped. Anyway, he played me, and I must have had that fear in me. And I scored from the edge of the box, bottom corner. And when you score a goal, it's a great feel anyway. But I don't know what come over me, but I decided to run back to the halfway line and give him that sign a couple of times. Or maybe 3 or 4. And I carried on the game, long story short, and we won, which was massive win. And I think that was a Tuesday night, actually. And then nothing, right? Nothing. And then the next day, my sister said to me, oh, Paul, I looked at it on the local North Anglia news, whatever, and what was you doing, after, when I saw it? Of course, phone rang. 9 o'clock next morning, wants to see you. And I went in and I went upstairs where the old offices used to be, knocked on the door. He's sitting there and Wits was sitting with him, and he didn't say good morning. He just said, you want Wits in or out? I said, out. Didn't want to be one. And Wits went, thanks a lot, and walked out. And he absolutely hammered me. He had the newspaper because they did a picture of it. Mm-hmm. And he had it on the thing, and he just went off on one at me. He said, but with the likes of Alan Shearer, and he went on and on and on. And I was having this conversation with him the other day. I was like, it sort of lost its volume. Mm-hmm. And I was just sitting there and said anything. And then he said, what you got to say to for yourself? And I said, well, you bang out of order at Millwall what you said to me and all this anyway. Just stamped over me again. And then he said, get out of the office. So I went out, and Wits was licking his chops because we had a fine system then, which would go towards the holiday at the end of the season. And he goes, how much? And I went to him what I said to Wit, and I walked down. I went in, and God bless him, B.O. Brian Owen was right there in the corridor because we used to change at Layer Road. And he was like, whoa, rearing right into me. And I told B.O. as well, And I didn't get fined. He never spoke a word to me. And we then went to and I thought, I'm out. We went to Northampton in the next game. And he on the bus, just on the way up, he just tapped me and said, you're in, do the same again. And lucky enough for me, I did. I scored again. Lucky enough for me. And I scored. And the lads all running as you're running off to the fans. The lads are all alongside me going, go on, I dare, go on, give him it again. No chance, head down. But I played my part. He was true to me, and he was honest manager, got us playing. And then when I decided to leave Colchester, I got a longer contract offer at Exeter. It was more money. He was really great. He phoned me up and he said, thank you for everything you've done and that, So I saw more of a human side to Mick then, mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. I think he came in and he tried to get into us. But it was, he done the job. He kept us up. So
yeah, absolutely.
It ended well.
Yeah, it ended well. And as you say, you went off to Exeter after that season. One thing that I'm quite interested in is when you look back now, having been a manager, at the way some of the managers were that you played under, do you sort of get the rationale a little bit more because you've been in their shoes?
Definitely. I think when I got offered the chance to be a manager, I didn't think about managers that I didn't. Maybe I should have sat there and gone, right, what were the things I liked? But I think they're all stored.
Hmm.
They're all stored, from all the managers that you've been under. And I've been lucky, been some great coaches, some great players, and understood what winning looked like from a young age. At Brentford,
Hmm.
we won the league to get into the championship, and I got a medal. I played games. I got in the first team at Brentford at a young age. So once I think you understand how to do it and what it takes, and you can't always be everyone's friend.
Hmm.
I always say if you're looking for friends, get out of management, because you have to upset people. And you have to upset people that have done a really good job for you. Like at Torquay for 4 years, we had great success, and some of them guys, there's no way I could have had that success without them. They know that now. A lot of them have gone into management themselves and coaching, but you do have to evolve, and you do have to pick 11 on a Saturday. And you do know how to have to manage and get the best out of people. And I think that's what, looking back at Steve, what they did, I felt I always wanted to play for them. Like Steve obviously was player coach, and he was so brave as a player, which, because the crowd could get on his back a little bit sometimes, but he always wanted the ball. He always led from the front, and there was a really good chemistry between him and Wignall. I think that's important. I learned that you do need the right assistant, you do need the right people around you, and they're not always your friends.
Hmm.
I say this a lot if I'm mentoring or I'm giving any advice. It's like sometimes it's good to advertise that role and really see who's out there rather than just give it to a friend. Because I don't think I might be wrong. I don't think Steve Wignall, the gaffer, and Wits went out together.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't think they, but the training sessions were always organised and on. And yeah, I learned a lot from all of them people, and them coaches. And I suppose I took that into the roles that I took on as a manager.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah,
think you always look at your experiences, don't you, and take little bits of them to sort of move forward. Another thing that I'd heard you say quite interestingly was you were given the opportunity at Brentford quite young, and you were able to play in a successful senior side, and
yeah.
you were quite pro giving young players a chance in your managerial career too. Is that right?
Mm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've done most of my coaching, all my coaching through Exeter's academy that we know now is a fabulous academy. And
Mhm.
it was back then, we didn't just produce, in my opinion, great players, produced some great coaches, Alex Inglethorpe that went on, is at Liverpool now, Alex, Kwame Ampadu, just to name a couple of coaches. And we was always giving players a chance, young players a chance at Exeter. That was the model. And we liked it. I learned a lot from seeing players develop, with someone like Steve Perriman being in charge there as well as director of football. I learned so much in them years there. And I took that when I went to Torquay, we was obviously out of the Football League. I took over the team. We had about 3 players, no staff, no nothing. So I got an opportunity to put my stamp on it. But I had 6 development players
Mhm.
that were on really low money, but they had good pedigrees from Premier League or Championship, and I developed them. We developed them, and that was 2 and 3 sessions a day. It was really structured. Looking back on it, in sort of what was it, 2008 when I took that job, and we got them through. We got them through into the first team, and we sold some of them.
Mhm.
And so, like, I know if you do it right, it can be done. And I was always an advocate of giving them young players a chance. I did it here in Sacramento when I come here. I signed a 15-year-old. I was always bringing the youth team in to play alongside us or against us. Yeah, I've done that at every club I've been at. I've always looked at the young players and thought, if you're good enough, you're old enough. I really mean that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I think a lot of clubs now are sort of adopting that model of bringing players in at a younger age and trying to sort of develop them as footballers. We've
Well,
Torquay
sorry, just on that, Aaron, like we had Dougie,
yeah,
Cole Dogood, right? We had Tony Locke. Forget the guys have to forgive me if I miss anyone else. We have like Lualawa, right? So
yeah,
we had some young players in there, and God did they have some spirit, like Dougie and Lockie, and it's what you need. I think you need that in a team. You need them younger players and them younger characters, and and certainly Dougie took penalty at Wembley, didn't he?
yeah, yeah.
How brave to step up at that age, and went on to have an incredible career for Colchester. So, yeah, young players were important to me to have in the team, and even looking back, some good young players at Colchester.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned having the young players at Colchester and you wanting to bring the young players through at Torquay. Was that part of your rationale for having Jeff Harrop with you in the backroom team as
Yeah,
well?
yes, absolutely. I did write that one down. Jeff will kill me. Yeah, I went and headhunted Jeff out of, because when I got to Torquay, obviously needed to put a squad together first. We're running out of time, so we did that, and then my focus turned to the youth. The board said, Paul, because the youth team had been shut down, and I said, look, we need to get a youth team back at Torquay. The West Country is renowned for producing players. And then they said, any ideas on who? And I just thought, why not go after Jeff? I think he was at Northampton at the time. And I said, look, I haven't spoken to Jeff in a long time. It's not an old pals act. It's not friends thing. I just think he's really good at that. He's an expert in that field and he knows what he's doing. So they interviewed him and they loved him. And I think like Jeff had a great time down in Torquay. He was brilliant. I mean, I got suspended for I think I said Bradford away, and whenever there was an opportunity to, like I said, to bring any of the kids in, I'd do the same with the coaching staff. And the youth team didn't have a game that weekend, and I said, Jeff, come on, you fancy coming with the first team? He said, I can't do that. That's a typical thing in football. Oh, I can't do that. I said, talk about you can't do that. Of course you can. I'm a manager, and come with us. And the lads loved it because Jeff was great with the banter and that. And the lads and it was a different look on the bus. Like it's, and he sat with me in the stands while we won 3-0. He obviously didn't need me on the side. So yeah, he was a massive part of it. And I wanted the kids to see my relationship with Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, that they can see the day-to-day sort of interaction with the manager. Because, they're all looking at you, the manager. Oh, we mustn't talk to him. Or how are we going to get in? Well, if they can see that you've got that relationship and that connection with their coach, I think there's a belief can come with that, because that's what they did at Brentford back in the day. With Steve Perriman as the head coach, Phil Older, assistant, who went on to be the manager, and Colin Lee. Colin Lee was our youth coach. So we'd always see them together. They would always be putting us in. 8 of us made our debuts for the first team out of that youth team, and that sticks with you. So Jeff was ideal. He took the job. I think he had a wonderful time down in the West Country. It's a great place to live, and he did a brilliant job. He got players through. We sold players under Jeff. So yeah, and I think he's now at Norwich, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's always I like to mention Jeff because obviously a lot of the younger youth fans probably know Angelo as being the Braintree manager and now the Chelmsford City manager, but I don't think many sort of remember the impact that Jeff had on Colchester, namely being sort of the person that brought Lualua through and sort of mentored him and got him into look at the career he ended up having. So yeah, it's one of those people that I wanted to highlight.
You're so right. There were so many good people at Colchester at the time. Again, you need that. I've said this at all the clubs I've been at. You sometimes you can't change the person, change the person, right? We had no one who was a wrong and who was bad. Who, sometimes you can take clubs over, it's full of them for whatever reason. But we had such great people. Jeff was in there, Cookie was in there. They was a great little team.
Yeah.
If we ever played against a youth team, they always try to beat us. It was that camaraderie. And Steve Wignall and Witten had a great relationship, with Jeff, Brian, God, what a man. Brian Owen, so sad to hear that news. I could picture his face now, and what a top coach as well Brian was. I think there was one day I remember where, for whatever reason, Wiggy and that weren't there, Whitson, and BO took the session. I didn't even know BO was a coach, and it's one of the best sessions I've ever been involved in. God bless you, Brian.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out after we trained over beyond where the home fans always were. In there was a little like five-a-side area.
Yeah.
Brian
park their cars there on match day, didn't they?
Yeah, Brian put a session on in there as top drawer, and I remember coming and saying, "Brian, you're in the wrong room, mate," because he was physio. He just laughed at me, said, winked and laughed. So yeah, Jeff and them guys did a great job. And like with Loire, another funny one with him. God, what a player, by the way. What a player he was, but should have Blackpool away. He's clean through, square. I'm open, square it to me, and he misses. And I was in his ear, coming back to the halfway line, and a bit longer, and then Wadsworth told me to leave him alone, so I did. But no, it was good youth policy at Colchester at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously with Duguid and Loire, but obviously you go and manage Torquay, you have great success with them, you're doing a great job. 2009, Colchester beat Norwich, first game of the season. Paul Lambert's in charge. He ends up going to Norwich. Am I right in thinking you were approached to be Lambert's replacement?
Yes, yeah. We was coming back from that game at Bradford, if I remember rightly. Long trip, by the way, back to Devon. And my phone went, and it was chairman, and said that Colchester had made a call and asked for permission to talk. Do you want to talk to them? And I said, yeah, okay, yeah. And obviously, I mean, I was managing Torquay, who I'd played over 100 games for, loved the club, and I loved Colchester, and it was exciting, So Robbie Cowley come on the phone, Rob, and had a good chat and that, and said, like, on our list and everything, and then he said, will you come down tomorrow to speak to us on the Sunday? And I said, I've got one question. Am I your first choice? Because I owed that to my club. I'm not gonna. And he said, well, we've got AD Boothroyd. And I thought, wow, AD was a big player then as a manager. And it's sort of his to lose, but we want to talk to you. And I said, nah, I can't do it. So unless you've made your mind up. It's different if I was out of a job, of course. Mm-hmm. Of course, you go and interview. But I hadn't interviewed for Torquay. They come and headhunted me out of Exeter. And I suppose I was looking for the same. So he said, okay. I get that, Paul. And then we moved on. And then I saw AD get it. And yeah, that was how that one unfolded. But I was gutted I didn't get a chance to manage Colchester, really. I'd have jumped at it. I would have. I think when you've got a connection, I mean, a long time ago, but a lot of those kids that are in the stands now at the stadium, their parents and that would maybe remember us back in the day. You've got that connection and that feel for the club. I think it gives you a real chance of being successful in the club.
Yeah, 100%.
But I love Danny and Nicky. Big advocates for them.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, definitely. That's what I was going to come on to now. So we sort of spoke a little bit before, and you said that you still keep a lookout for Colchester's results each week, and you've mentioned Danny and Nicky. What do you make of the side now? Have you got any sort of opinions on how we're going to get on?
I haven't. I'd be lying if I said I know exactly what you're doing on the field and the players. I haven't. I look for the result every weekend. Follow Colchester for sure. And like I said, I love the two brothers. I think they're fantastic
Yeah.
in what they do. And I was delighted when they got that opportunity. I spoke to them. I had a long chat with Danny, long chat, because I'd always wanted to pick his brains anyway. Because these teams have done so well and their journey's fascinating. What they've done. So yeah, I had a long chat with him, and then we exchanged some texts for a while. But with football, that you sort of could drift and stuff. And I'm obviously in America, but I've seen where we are right now in the league. I'm sure we'll fix that. But they're two people that if I was advising an owner or whatever, they'd certainly be high up on my list because the way they go about their business.
Definitely. And I think you spoke about having a sort of relationship with a club. I think Danny and Nicky have built that relationship with all of the stakeholders in Colchester United so well that they've created a sort of community that can only really succeed in many ways. Just one final thing before we go. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat. Out of all of the players you've played with, who has been the best player that you've played with?
At Colchester or
We'll go for Colchester. That'll be an interesting one. So out of all the Col U players, who was the best one that you sort of looked at and went, how can they do that with a football?
Wow. Well, Loire.
Mm-hmm.
I say like the best obviously is players that I won with. I mean, I didn't play that long with Loire, but top player. I mean, it was obvious to see. I mean, Tony Adcock. I love Tony Adcock because he always knew where I was. His football brain was on another level, Tone. So you knew if you gave Tads the ball, you get it back, and you would get it back exactly where you needed it, i.e., for a strike on goal, which he set up a few for me. So he's right up there. Wits, these players that have played high level, I think Dazelle, I know I mentioned a few, but they're all top players. Remember when Jason Dazelle came in?
Yeah, I forget that Dazelle sort of came in at that point as well.
Yeah, and that's when you can see the quality. I think I played with him. We played Man City away in League One, the old main road, and it's class, like his awareness and his ability on the ball. But yeah, a great friend of mine, Carl Empson, as well. I think he epitomised what we were at Colchester, Embo. Top keeper, great in the dressing room. Weren't afraid to say how it was. That's what I loved about Carl as well. We had plenty of them. Because that's what you need. And talking about being a manager, you need them characters in the dressing room when it's getting, it's not going well, or that they're not afraid to call you out. And it didn't matter how good a friend you were with him, he'd say it, like David Greenwood, Wilkins, all them players. So named a few there.
Yeah.
But I suppose over my career, we didn't play with him, but I'll tell you what was inspiring. When we was at Brentford as kids, Steve brought in Ozzy Ardiles to the training ground. Can you imagine that? World Cup winner, Ardiles, and said, sit down and watch. They were doing a keep ball and watch him. And it was absolutely unbelievable to have someone at that level at the training ground as kids to watch him, how good he was. And he was tiny, like, back in the day where every player was big and strong and aggressive. So he's probably the best one that I've been in and around.
Yeah, what a player, by the way. Yeah, Ozzy Ardiles, unreal.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable player.
I put it out there that I was chatting to you. I spoke to my brother who is also a Hughes fan, and he said that he remembers lots about you, but one thing he remembered is you are the first player that he recalled wearing coloured boots. a pair of blue and white Asics. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. What have I done with them? What have I done? Imagine I had them now, yeah. Actually, I'll tell you what, I reckon Abe's beat me. Paul Abrams beat me on that. We used to have some banter, me and him, because back then, it's not like it is now, but you do the photo shoot in the programme, with the kit, the new kit or whatever, like. And I think I remember one of them when I had them boots, the shouts, you got to be a good player to wear them. But it was when coloured boots were just coming out. I mean, of course, they're par for the course now, but yeah, he's probably right there. I was tried to rock them. Don't know where they ended up.
You're a trailblazer, mate. Yeah. Paul, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you very much for sharing your experience of being at Colchester and your career generally. It's been great to chat and we really appreciate it.
Well, I hope that the youth fans enjoy the stories, and thank you for having me on, and good luck. Be watching.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers, pal.